Hello, beautiful people. I hope all is well. I hope all is well. Welcome back to another segment of Ask Alison. That is my new rebrand. That's what I'm calling live Q&A. It's Ask Alison. Always got to love a good rebrand, right? So let me let folks know what we are doing. This is Ask Alison live Q&A. Okay. And then we're going to pin it. So it's been 2 weeks. I apologize for the delay. The reason why it's been 2 weeks is because last week I was coming home from Jamaica. So I did not have the opportunity to do live Q&A. Thank you, Miss Cassandra. I didn't have that opportunity. However, I now, and then the week before that, I was sick and I'm still struggling a little bit, but I'll be able to get through just fine. So my good friend, Miss Cassandra, is going to be joining our live in about 40 minutes. And I've been having a problem with Instagram, and I don't know what it is. So when I go live, I sound perfectly fine. I'm clear. I'm crisp. And then when I've been having people join the live, automatically their sound is amazing, and then my sound is trash. So I hope that I'll be able to host the guest that I have today. I have a guest, Chris, who will be joining us at 6:30, and then I have another amazing guest. Miss Cassandra will be joining us at 7, and let's hope and pray that Instagram does not give me a hard time. I'm going to try to get through all of these questions in the next 8 minutes. I have 6 of them, so we will see how well I do in that area. And then, as I mentioned before, we have our guest. If you are new to my page and you don't know how Ask Alison works, how it works is that every Tuesday evening, I post this story, this great story with the cell phone, with the red people. I hope. Sorry. Right? When you press it down, it's supposed to hold. With the red dress, you see that? That is the story that I post every Tuesday evening. And in that story, it says for you to ask your questions for Ask Alison for live Q&A. You drop the question in the box. You have to make it fit in the box. If it cannot fit in the box, that means that I need too much context and I will not be able to answer it on live. So then your next best step would be for you to click the link in my bio and for you to book a session, okay? Do not DM me because I will not be able to find it, and then now your question's not being answered at all. So you have to make it fit in the box. Allison, I'm not going to remember to check your stories every Tuesday. Allison, I forgot. And now, let me tell you what you got to do. If you click the link in my bio and you click on Work With Me, you scroll to the bottom, it'll have something that says VIP text list. It is a free text list that I have curated for you guys to send you alerts and reminders of when I'm going live and when I'm having events, and I want you to come out to this, and this is what's going on. If I have a really good testimonial, I ain't going to send all of them, because if I send all my testimonials, child, I'd be texting you all night long, and then you'd be texting the word stop. So my really good testimonials I send out via text. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Text messaging for businesses are extremely expensive. So believe you me, I'm not texting you any riffraff. If you don't want my text messages anymore, believe you me, text the word stop. I will not be mad. But if you do want those 1 to 2 text messages per week, then you go ahead and click the link, scroll to VIP text list. It is free. You put your cell phone number and your name in, and I will text you that link to that story for you to drop your question in. My lives stay on somewhere between 24 and 48 hours. So even if you can't join me live for Ask Alison, then you can always watch it within 24 to 48 hours. After that, the lives go in the vault in my Facebook group. The lives go in the vault in the Facebook group. So that is where you would need to be, which is the Future Wives Club, in order for you to see 120 hours of live Q&A. So let us jump in because time is limited. As I mentioned before, I'm going to try to have some guests today if Instagram doesn't play games with me. So I am going to go ahead and jump into the questions that were posed for Ask Alison. I hope everybody's on the same page. We know what's going on. I normally do my shout outs, but I want to answer y'all questions, so I don't really have the time. Okay. So question 1, new dating app overwhelmed by the number of convos. Best way to navigate? New dating app overwhelmed by the number of convos. Best way to navigate. So what you're going to want to do is to reduce the amount of people that even reach out to you. I know that might sound counterintuitive, but what we want is to curate a list or a group of ladies or gentlemen who are actually what you are looking for versus you being inundated with a whole bunch of messages from people who are inappropriate matches. So the first thing that I would do is I would check your photos. Make sure that the photos that you have posted of yourself are not sexual in nature at all whatsoever. They are not sexual in nature at all whatsoever. You do not want to give the impression that what you're on this app for is some kind of casual rendezvous. So you want to make sure that your photos are clear, crisp, well lit. You want to be smiling, you want to be warm, and you want to be fully dressed. No bathing suit, sorry, unless you have a cover up. Nothing that can be insinuated as sexual in nature. You're in the tub, like none of that. Because no shade to the guys, y'all already think about sex I don't know how many times a day, so we're not going to feed into that. All right, so number one, make sure that your photos are not sexual or cannot be misconstrued as sexual in nature. Smiling and warm, not sexy and alluring. I can't do sexy and alluring, but you know what I'm saying, right? Number two, make sure that you are using language on your profile that makes it abundantly clear that you are looking for a long-term committed relationship. Many times you'll have 2 to 3 opportunities to do this. Your first opportunity for you to do this is when they ask you what they call radio buttons. Those are the black buttons that you click and the black thing is there. So they're going to say, what are you looking for? Click long-term committed relationship. Don't be scared, because many people are afraid to answer it that way because they think they're going to ward people off. Good. That's what we want. We want to ward off inappropriate matches. If this guy does not want to commit a relationship, if this girl does not want to commit a relationship and you do, we want to ward them off. Now, it doesn't mean that they want that relationship with you just yet. You're a stranger. They don't know you to make that decision. But we want to make sure that whoever we're engaging with wants it. That is the vision. They want a family, if that's what you want. They want children, or they don't want children, depending on what you want. So make sure that you are answering the questions and you are using language that's very clear about what you want, and then you follow what I said about the photos, and you are less likely to get so many interactions. You're going to weed out a lot of inappropriate matches. Okay? Number 2, how do you let go of an ex that you don't want to give up on, but you know he is no longer good for you? Simple, Simon. You have to decide. You've already said that he is not good for you. So you have to decide who is more important. Are you more important to you, or are they more important to you? And you've just joined the live, so you're right on time. You have to decide who's more important to you. Is your own safety, security, the affection, the protection, the provision, the profession, whatever it is that you want, right? Is that more important to you? Or is just having this man in your presence more important? Once you've made that decision, then it's easy peasy chicken greasy. You're going to click the link in my bio and you can check out my free ebook, Move On Sis, or my free training From Breakup to Boot Up. Click the link in my bio, go to Work with Alison, scroll to where it says free or low cost resources. You're going to check out the training and then you're going to do what I say. But you're never going to do what I say unless you decide that your happiness and your fulfillment is more important than having a man on your shoulder or that man on your shoulder. You got to decide what the priority is, and then you follow the steps that I provided by clicking the link in my bio. Go to Work With Me, scroll down. It says free low-cost resources, and there are 2 free trainings on how to move on from an ex. But you cannot move on from that ex until you've decided that you are more important than them. Your happiness is more important than you just being in their vicinity. Okay? Thank you for purchasing a badge, Tiana. I appreciate that. I'm used to talking daily. He knows. Talks for hours when we do, but never calls back when he says. Red flag. I'm used to talking daily. He knows. We talk for hours when we do, but he never calls back when he says. Red flag. Now, under normal circumstances, I would go super hard about someone not following up on what they say that they're going to do, and that being a warning sign on how they could potentially show up for you romantically. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. That's it. And you should be held accountable for that. However, this particular doesn't call back when he says, I think that people in general are notorious for saying, I'm going to hit you back. I'm going to call you back. Like, I think that people are notorious for that. And I'm going to call you later. It doesn't actually mean that. So for that particular thing that he's not fulfilling, I would not qualify that as a red flag or something that you should run away from. But I will say I would pay attention to other things. So if there are other things that he consistently does not follow through with, then I would say that this gentleman is showing us examples that we cannot trust his word. And as a result, we should remove ourselves from the equation. Okay? I have 3 more. I'm going to try to speed through this because our guest is awaiting, okay? How long should you wait to start dating after a recent divorce? How long should you wait to start dating after a recent divorce? So I don't think that there's any specific time frame. I'm not going to tell you 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever it is. I'm not going to tell you that. Instead, what I'm going to say is, are you ready to move on? Do you feel as though you have left that relationship? You are healed. You are not holding on to the baggage of that relationship. You are not going to hold the new man accountable for the mistakes potentially that the old man made. You're not bringing that baggage in. Are you prepared to move on? Are you still crying at night over this guy? That means you're not prepared to move on. Do you still wear his sweater and crave to smell him? You're not ready to move on. When you drive past places that the two of you used to frequent, do you get sad? Do you think about him? When your phone vibrates, does your heart drop because you're hoping it's him? All of these are indicators that you're not ready to move on. But if not, if you've passed those tests, then you're ready to start dating again. And we have to be sure that we're not bringing in our old baggage into the new. I actually think this is a perfect opportunity for me to segue to our guest. His name is Chris. He comes from the McBride Institute, and his area of focus and expertise is about healing. So that is why I am going to answer the other 2 questions that was asked via DM. It's a rarity. Everyone else, I want you to welcome our guest, Chris, and let's hope that the sound is kind to us, because it hasn't been thus far.
Yo, can you hear me?
I can hear you, and that's not the problem. The problem is others. So let's see if we are lucky. If you are here still on live with us, can you please let us know if you can hear me clearly and if you can hear Chris clearly, because Instagram has not been my friend for a couple of months. There's been a bit of a delay, so we'll see.
What up, Sheridan? Yeah, can y'all let us know in the chat? Yes, I can. Good stuff. Can we get some up? Yep.
Yay!
Look at
Okay,
God.
good. So Chris, I gave like a little kind of introduction, so please introduce yourself.
My name is Chris McBride. I run the McBride Institute. I feel like my purpose in life is to educate, heal, and empower. So at the McBride Institute, we help people heal from their unresolved childhood trauma, help them harmonize dysfunctional family dynamics, help them control their anger, ego, and aggression, and then also help them empower the best version of themselves. So that's a quick synopsis of who I am and what I do at the McBride
Good.
Institute.
Thank you for everyone who's chiming in, who's letting us know that we can be heard. This is a gift because, as I said before, my last 2 lives went to hell because they couldn't hear me. Okay, so Chris, you use a lot of jargon. You use a lot of buzzwords. And so we got to break it down for the people who may not be familiar with the language. First, can you tell us a little bit about your background, potentially your expertise, how you got into this work?
Yeah, got into this work just because of constantly trying to resolve my own trauma from just childhood. I had abandonment issues because wasn't really around my father like that when I was younger. I was also molested by an older female friend of the family, but because a lot of men think that we only are molested if a guy touches us, I didn't literally think that anything happened to me until I was 18 years old and I was in advanced placement psychology. They played the movie Antoine Fisher and had all these reactions coming up. Teacher pulled me outside, and that was really the first time that I realized that something happened to me. So for 8 years, I was just thinking I was ahead of the game. I didn't really even realize I was sexually assaulted. So that brought on issues of their own. I mean, just being bullying and all these other things, and then that just kind of resulted in me just trying to just find peace and healing. And as I just stayed true to that over the years, I've just developed strategies to heal. So then people started coming to me like, "Yo, Chris, how do I do this? How do I do this?" And I've had strategies because I went through all these things. So then it just kind of followed into my purpose. And I feel like my purpose is to educate, heal, and empower. But that's kind of what started it, is just having all these traumatic experiences when I was younger and then seeking to resolve it. And then now I'm at a place where I'm just helping others do the same.
Wonderful. So, as a Black man in the mental health space, what are some of the challenges that you find working with your clients?
With men in particular, or men and women?
Either one, whatever you like.
With men, I would say the simple fact of we haven't really had a lot of models for healthy expression. So A lot of times, especially as kids, we're taught, parents only want us to witness the good things, but we're forced out of the room with arguments or conflicts. So men don't really know how to express themselves as far as anger in a healthy way. They don't know how to express frustration or disappointment in a healthy way. They don't know how to express sadness in a healthy way. They don't even really feel comfortable sitting in their emotions because they haven't really been around a man that demonstrated sitting in emotions. They've witnessed men act out, but they haven't really seen a healthy man that has emotional intelligence and has self-control be able to, in a confident way, say that, yeah, I'm sad, or this is hurting me, or and not come off as weak. So that's really the biggest challenge. When they feel these emotions in their body, they feel like it makes them weak or they're less than for some reason, and not that they're just human and just how to process it.
Mm-hmm. So what I find, and feel free to tell me, if you have a different opinion, what I find is that a lot of this is socialized, where boys are taught not to cry. Boys are taught that emotions are weakness, and that's for women. Even the language that we use to describe it, right? Like if you pussy, right, you're a punk. What is a pussy? A vagina that's attached to a woman. You being a bitch, what is that? A female dog, a term that you use for women. So what can we do as individuals to kind of turn this around so that men can learn to be more expressive? What do you think?
I think we need models. I think we need men that's out here doing the work and showing it and doing it unafraid and doing it unapologetic. Because I always tell people we're more influenced by what we see than what people say to us. Like more of what our parents demonstrated in front of us rubbed off on us than anything that they instructed us to do. So more than anything, we just need to see it. Then we need people talking about it and all that. Because even if people start talking about it, but we're not seeing it, that's why King Solomon in the Bible says people without a vision will perish. And without image in the mind for something, it results in confusion. So a lot of men are really just confused on it. So if they got a clear image, then it's easier to execute. But without that image of what to do, then it's always going to result in some type of anxiety or some type of confusion. So they need to see it modeled, and that will give them a clear vision for it.
Okay, that's a good one. See it modeled in real life. I've always said that in regards to the presence of dads, right? When people say, "Oh, I've never had a dad. I never saw what a dad should be like, so that's why I wasn't able to do." My argument has always been, and I'm sure it's faulty. You're going to correct me. My argument has been, well, you watch Family Matters. Well, you watch Uncle Phil with Will and them. Like we've seen it. It exists. You know that it exists. You've seen dads being present, dads being loving. So are you saying that television ain't enough? We need it in the communities.
Television can be enough, but the issue is that television also gives conflicting data.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we might got Uncle Phil in our mind, but we also got Terrence Howard from Empire and Ghost from Power and all these other bad examples. So it's like, yeah, we might have two or three good examples, but if we're being honest, most men that are represented on TV are either a pushover or a tyrant. They rarely show somebody like an Uncle Phil that wasn't really a pushover or a tyrant. He was strong, but we don't really get to see a lot of examples like that. We might see them peppered in there, but for the most part, the number the number far outweighs for the bad representation than it does the good. So
Yes.
yes, TV can program it because it's called excitation transfer. The brain can't tell the difference between something we vividly imagine and an actual experience. That's why when we're watching TV, we could be like, "Oh, you stupid mother, we." So consciously we know we're just watching TV, but subconsciously where decisions, where feelings, where behavior is, it's taking it as it's real. That's why we're responding like that to the actual TV. So yes, it does program us, but the issue is that we got way more bad programming. So I always give people the analogy of like a fish tank. If we had a 20-gallon fish tank of water, if I just poured in one little can of Coke, it's changing the whole color of the water. So it doesn't matter how much, if we got 20 gallons of purity in us, if we just pour a little bit of Coke in us, it dilutes us completely. And our spirits and our consciousness are the exact same way. So, and that's coming if we got 20 gallons of pure water. When it comes to what people intake, it's the reverse. They put a glass of water in a big ass thing of Coke and they just like, "Oh, my spirit is messed up." Well, it's like what you feed in your spirit.
Well said. Well said. I always tell people that you have to be conscious of the pages that you follow on social media. Like it's called a social media feed. It's feeding you, right? And so, all right, you want to have a gossip page here or there, but you follow in the Shade Room and On Site and Hollywood Unlocked. and spiritual word, which spiritual word has changed this whole approach. But you know what I'm saying? Just like it's again and again and again, you have to be mindful of what you're intaking. So, like you said about the television having the specs, and even look at the examples I gave, they're from the 90s, right? So, we're talking about our teenage boys, our 16, 17-year-old boys, our more impressionable boys, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They don't even have the Uncle Phil. They don't even have the Carl Winslow, like, you know, so I think that there's a lot of validity behind what you're saying. Chris, let me ask you, in your line of work, what what's getting the men in? Because we already said that there's a challenge with them even acknowledging that there's a problem. There's a challenge with
Pain.
them. That's Go ahead.
So it's the pain that gets them in. It's the simple fact of, and I like to target men with families because I'm of the belief that a single man isn't really motivated to control himself or to change. Now he can if it's getting in the way of his bag, like so if his job or if his managers or high clients are like, look, nigga, if you don't get it together, we about to walk away. That will motivate a single man, but for the most part, um, a man with a family is motivated. So if your reactions are gonna potentially cause you to lose your wife, that'll get a nigga in my face. If you're about to mess up something with your kids or something and it results in guilt and shame because now you having a hard time actually being present with your kid, or you don't know how to back to the healthy ways of expressing frustration, so then you get mad and you blow up at your kid and now you feeling mad or you're feeling guilty because your kid is afraid of you, or they're possibly could be afraid of you if you keep reacting how you're reacting. So most of the time it is relational issues that is causing them to seek counseling because they don't want to damage their relationships.
Hmm. Now, when you work with your clients, are they coming in person? Is it virtual? Where are you located, and how do you do the work?
I'm in Indianapolis, so I'm in Indiana. I do have clients that work with me in person, but most of my clients are virtual because I am international at this point. So, I work with people in London. I work with a couple people in Australia. Most of my clients are in Atlanta, New York, and LA. So, ironically, I have very few clients in my hometown. But, like Jesus said, you can't be a prophet in your own land.
All right now. Okay. So we have the location, we have the services. So you did mention that you work with both men and women. So can you talk about some of the struggles that the women are coming in with?
Relational issues as well. And most of the time, the women, I started seeing women because my male clients wanted me to see their wives. And a lot of times it's relationship issues as well. It is not knowing how to communicate with the man. It's not knowing how to receive criticism sometimes. It is not knowing how to have a healthy self-image. Sometimes they might have grew up in an environment where it wasn't a two-parent household, so they never really seen their mother submit to a man. So back to the without a vision, people perish. They don't know what that looks like or how to do it. So they're having issues connecting with their men. They're having issues with conflict resolution. They're having issues with self-esteem and identity. Who am I outside of just a mother and a wife? Same thing with men. Who am I outside of a penis and a wallet to my woman? So those are some of the main
Okay.
issues.
Okay, understood. Now, you brought up something that's super important. It's actually a topic that I'm going to be tackling on Thursday. I have a workshop called Love Wins, and it's with me and a coach, Ask Miss Cassandra, who works with men. And one of the issues that we talk about, obviously, is communication. And you just touched on that when you work with women, one of the biggest issues that you find is that they don't know how to communicate. But you said very specifically, they don't know how to communicate with a man. So what does communication with a man look like, and how does it differ than communicating with anybody else?
Oh, well, we just gotta recognize that physiology wise, we are different. So a lot of times, and men and women are guilty of this. We expect our partners to be like the same sex that we are.
Mhm.
So a lot of men be like, "Yo, I want a feminine woman," but you're getting mad at her, nigga, for displaying feminine qualities. So men will get frustrated when the woman just wants to cry out of nowhere and all that stuff, and they just think, "All right, I need to solve it, solve it, solve it, solve it." And that's really how men are. So they're expecting her to be kind of like masculine, which is like solve it and get over it. You shouldn't be crying no more. Women want to kind of like talk all the time and talk things through, and men aren't really like that. Like, we will kind of talk, but for the most part, a lot of men aren't really just trying to just shoot the breeze and just kind of just talk about their day and go into elaborate details on all these other things. And it's just like that communication should really be with your female friends as opposed to trying to force that on your man, because that's going to cause a lot of issues. And the same thing with the man. A lot of times we try to force stuff that's really supposed to be with our male friends onto our women. So those are the biggest communication issues. It's like men communicate with the woman like she's a man, and then the woman communicates with the man like he's a woman. And it's just like, we not different. So a woman might be like, oh, bitch, you know, how they talk to their girlfriends. And it's like, you about to miss me talking to me like that. I don't, because dudes, we don't talk like that. We don't go to our friends and be like, oh, bitch. And like, that's not how dudes communicate and all that. So it's just, we just got to understand we just completely different species, and we can't treat each other like we're the same sex, because that's what's causing a divide, in my experience.
That makes sense. I'll tell you this, as it's ironic that you said that, because I literally said the same thing to a client earlier today, saying that one of the issues is that people, more women than men, and you tell me what you think, feel as though their partner is supposed to be their everything. And there really is a time and a place and a role for your partners. You have your best friend, and that's the one that you're going to call and complain about every little thing. Like my friend's circle, we have a joke that says like, oh, I'm calling to complain about nothing. And then we'll call, and it will be the most minor of minor, you know, what is it, first world problems. That's what we have, right? And then that might not be appropriate for your spouse. So one of the things I think is key is, especially this is for younger people, I think older folks kind of develop who they are as individuals. They develop their relationships with their friends, and then they get a male or female partner. But any way it goes, you have to keep in mind that your relationship with your partner is not the same as your relationship with your girlfriends or your sister or your mom. And as a result, you may talk about different things. Now, it doesn't mean that you're leaving your spouse or your partner out of the game. If there's a coworker you don't like, they should know that, right? But you ain't gonna come home and tell them about every single minor detail of why that coworker got on your nerves every single day of the week. So I think that is super important. So I can see that from my perspective, but could you give us a little insight from a man's perspective? What are the conversations that men try to have with women that don't work well?
Accountability. That's one that typically doesn't work well. And just it really just depends. But a lot of times I see it around just like accountability, because men just tend to be facts a little bit, and women could be a little bit more feeling. So some of the issues that men are having in regards to communicating is like, I'm trying to communicate with you and I'm speaking facts, but then now the conversation spins around to how you feel about the facts as opposed to staying on with the facts. And a lot of men fail because then they get emotional. And anytime a man gets emotional and a woman, like that's a woman's domain, is the emotion. So it's like we gonna lose if we allow ourselves to get emotional. And I think that's where a lot of men fail, is that women can cause them to get emotional because they are emotional, and men follow that, and a man have a hard time anchoring themselves in certain conversations till once they see they're getting emotionally off their pivot, they have a hard time just stopping the conversation, especially if, again, they haven't seen it modeled. So they'll allow themselves to get emotional, and then once a man gets emotional, it's probably going to go downhill as far as the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to push back a little bit, Chris, because you said, you know, with a man getting emotional, but you also talked about tapping into those emotions and expressing them in a healthy way. So isn't it acceptable for a guy to get emotional, or do you mean maybe like in an unhealthy way?
Well, I was more so referring to an unhealthy way. I do feel that a man needs to be aware of his emotions, but I don't think a man should be sensitive. So I don't think that like me and you are in conversation and you say something and then I allow myself to get triggered and then I act on that particular trigger. That's more so when I'm saying emotional now. When I speak to how men need to be in touch with their emotions, it's more so saying not bottling stuff up so I'm exploding later on people and everything, or I'm just keeping things in and I'm spiraling internally. So a man needs to be able to be like, yo, I'm hurting. Yo, you know, I'm doubting myself a little bit right now. Yo, I'm not really certain and I'm not really confident and all that. So a man needs to be able to be honest about those, but a man doesn't need to allow himself to, if me and you are having a conversation and you say something I don't like, now I'm starting to feel myself getting a little ruffled and I can tell that I'm not no longer in control. So I'm gonna start saying things that I'm probably gonna regret later. I may do something because men and women have aggression manifests differently. So with women, most of the time, the aggression is going to manifest verbally, and through like representation or reputation destroying things like that. But men are going to, man, what? Like, we're going to start doing things physical, and that's going to cause an issue. Even if you don't hit a woman, if you slam a door, or if you slam it, like, you about to, you lost. So that's more so what I'm meaning with a man can get emotional because I'm trying to say something, and instead of talking about the facts of what I'm saying, I could get triggered because you start talking about your feelings or start bringing other things up, and a man will lose it then, instead of just anchoring himself and then either removing himself from the conversation or staying on point with the facts. We'll allow ourselves to get tricked out of the position, and once we do that, it's over. We lost.
Understood. Understood. Chris, this conversation has been amazing, and I have just realized I have triple booked myself. So I want to wrap up here, and I want to invite my next guest on. Would it be okay if I brought her on with you? Because what we're
Yeah.
going to talk about is connected well. All right, Miss Cassandra, I know that you're in the building. I see you in the comments, and I want to bring you on because I just realized I told you to come on at 7, and I got a session at 7. But again, what we're talking about, what Chris and I are talking about, is in direct relationship with what Miss Cassandra was going to discuss. Someone said my question is in the box. Yes, ma'am. However, the question needed to be entered in advance. So if you join my text list, Miss Carter, then you will be able to put your question in advance. So again, ask Miss Cassandra. I know that you were in the building. If you can show yourself, request yourself so I can bring you in, because as I said, this is my life. In the meantime, while we wait for Miss Cassandra to join us, Chris, can you tell us where can we find you? How do we connect with you? Give us all those deets.
I'm on IG, TikTok, YouTube, all under McBride Institute. And yeah, you could just reach out to me, shoot me a DM, or hit the link in my bio if you want a free consultation. Shoot me a DM if you got any type of questions or anything like that, or just comment on any of the videos if they provided you value. But that's for the most part how to reach me.
Okay, so I'm going to say it for you because you're too kind. This free consultation is to see how Chris can work with you. We're not here to be taking advantage of professionals, okay? We're not here to squeeze out some free coaching or therapy. So it's let's get on a call so I can see how I can help you and work with you on the long haul. We don't take advantage of each other. Okay?
Facts. And that was something I did for 2 years. My coach, shout out to Donnie Wiggins, she was telling me, like, yo, you got to stop doing coaching calls, because that's basically what I was doing. I was solving everybody's problem and then wondering why I would never hear from them again. It's like, so I switched it up now. To your point, I only do discovery calls now. I'm not coaching on these
All right.
calls.
Right. All right. Now we got to make that clear. I saw Cassandra. She said that she was joining us. I know that she was expecting to join at 7, so she's probably throwing some lip gloss on. But Cassandra, girlfriend, I messed up, and I didn't realize that I had a call at 7. So I'm gonna need you to come up. All right. I think she's up in here now.
And there's a little bit of a lag too. Hey, how are y'all doing?
Good. 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 So Chris
I
is.
thrown a show, girl. I was
I knew you wasn't ready. So Chris, this is Cassandra. Cassandra, this is Chris. Cassandra's been
Nice to
on.
meet you.
I heard you, and she's loving it. I see it in the comments. So Cassandra, can you
like,
introduce
Chris,
yourself, who you are and where you're from?
you know what you're talking about. You does this. Okay?
I
I'm
appreciate
listening.
you.
Yeah, so I'm asking Miss Cassandra. I'm a relationship and a life coach, and I am a men's advocate. So I started out my journey really learning more about feminine energy, and of course, in the process, learn about masculine energy. And I just saw such a deficit in the community as it relates to men's needs, men's challenges, problems, things that I was never taught, never learned. And mind you, I was in school. I've been in school for counseling and social work and getting all these higher education degrees. And it occurred to me that there are spaces for women, there are spaces for children, but there's never men's studies. We have children's studies, we have women's studies, we have studies for the elderly, but nobody is thinking about what hurts men. And so I went on a journey that took me down a rabbit hole, and I came out a men's advocate. So here I am. That's my story.
So Cassandra and I are hosting the Love Wins virtual workshop. We normally do it in person, and we still will every year, I guess like the weekend before Valentine's Day. But we had so many people who outreach who said, I really want to be a part of this workshop. I really want to have a better understanding of where men are coming from, where women are coming from in a healthy way. And I'm not in New York, so I can't attend. So we decided that we were going to do this virtual workshop. The link is in Cassandra's bio, so make sure that you go ahead and join us. But Chris, since we have you on, as we said, this is a perfect matchup. And I'm gonna pose this to Cassandra and to you, Chris. Cassandra, what are the pieces that women are missing when they are trying to engage in a healthy way with their male partners?
Engage sexually, conversationally.
Just, intimately, sexually or otherwise, but an intimate engagement.
Sure. So intimate, one of the things I think that women misunderstand is just how simple men can be, and they're also very visual. And say, for example, intimate conversation, right? Women tend to treat men just like, as Chris said, like he is a softer version of a man. He is not. And he is masculine. And so when we're creating intimacy with a man, you want to pay very close attention to the things that he likes, and understand that when men communicate their needs, most masculine men do not want to repeat themselves over and over again. And you have but one or two times to disrespect him, like really hurt him, before he takes his heart and takes out his chest and throw it into the sea. And he becomes a stone wall. And it takes so long and such an effort to get him back to where you originally had him. He can function, he can pay the bills, he can seemingly be present, and she may not even know how much she hurt him. So we have to really tune in our ears to hear his boundaries and things that really mess with him, and just don't effing do it. Like, for real, like, make that your top priority to not do that, right? So if a man has boundaries, say, for example, he has a brother, and he sees his woman laughing all over his brother, putting her body all over his brother, and that, like, it digs at him, and her response is, "That's just your brother. I would never do anything like that." Boop, it's a wrap. I'm not gonna say it again. Not gonna repeat it again. I don't want to talk about it. Intimacy done, gone. Like, he's just stone cold, because that is his best effort at being vulnerable, and she shot it down. So I would say, listen to what a man has to say. Take that joint seriously, because if he shared it with you, you meant enough for him to share it, and know that your range of your margin for error is pretty damn slim. So I think that's,
and know that also, in addition to that men are literal.
Mm-hmm.
So men are literally literal. So when they say things, take it literal. Don't try to interpret it and try to reframe it to mean something else. Most of the time, if you follow literally what a man says, you'll be okay. But issues come when you try to take it to mean something else, as opposed to the literal words of what's coming out of his mouth.
Yes, agreed, 100%.
Okay.
Yes, and we are having a Love Wins workshop. And Chris, I don't know what you're doing, but tomorrow at 7 p.m. But you are more than welcome to come in and speak to the men. We have quite a few men in there, and I think it's just beneficial for us to hold space for men to be able to communicate and express what their needs are. And so there was something that a man said. I know you got to go, Alison, but something I want to really say was so powerful. And what he said was, I know that as a man, when I take a woman out, I'm supposed to pay for the date. I'm supposed to pick her up, maybe get some flowers, choose the restaurant. I'm so clear on what I need to do as a man. And so therefore, a woman is very clear on how she can tell if a man is serious. But I don't have any guidelines as a man on what a woman's supposed to do. So if I know that she's serious, mind blown, because he can't really tell.
And a lot of that stems from us growing up in single mother households, and we don't really see her, unfortunately, respecting men. We see her kind of like running over, dogging, being the authoritarian. So men tend to model that. So men don't even really know how to identify when a woman really got his back, because for the most part, we haven't really seen our mothers hold a man down like that. Back to the model.
Totally.
Yeah. Well said. From the woman's perspective, I can say one of the ways that we struggle in romantic relationships with men is when there's a lack of clarity. And so there's a lot of conversation about women needing to submit, or women needing to allow men to lead. But from a logical perspective, and I would think that men would appreciate logic, from a logical perspective, why would anyone follow anyone else's lead if I'm not clear that you know where we're going, right? like I have my Google Maps and I have Waze, and so I put my address in and then I follow it accordingly because I've heard rumors that it knows where it's going, right? I trust Google. People say that Waze is really good. It's going to tell you where the cops are. It's going to tell you what, right? So I can follow that lead and feel very confident. But if someone gave me some brand new app I never heard of, and I've gone on the app and it didn't really send me in the right direction, then I'm never going to deal with that app again. So one of the biggest issues and the disparities that I see is that when there's a lack of vision, the way that it's expressed, maybe the guy has the vision, but he hasn't expressed it in a way that that woman can understand or appreciate or whatever, then that's where a lot of conflict comes into play.
Facts. Visions are personal, but they're not private. Shout out to Dr. Miles Monroe when he said that. For the longest time, I was struggling with that. But then, like he was saying, that our visions affect our whole household. So men do got to do a better job of communicating the vision to our women and to our children and making sure that their visions for their life kind of fit into our vision. And if it's not fully thought out, like if we can't articulate it, if we can't answer questions about it, or if we get frustrated and all that anytime somebody is trying to ask us those questions, I would say that that's a red flag for a woman. More so what I was referring to is when a man does have it together and he has proved that he is a leader and he is worth following. He don't want to constantly deal with that nagging. But to your point, if a man isn't showing that he is a capable leader, then I think a woman needs to be able to clearly read those signs on the wall before it gets too late and she gets too entrenched in the relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to add to that too a little bit, which is that another thing that women can do is to give a little bit of grace. Part of leadership is failing forward, has to make mistakes. And because we are, emotional, and because of our hormones and our differences, we don't really have a lot of margin for failure and error. Like it really can scare us. And so I think that in the event that you're with a man and he cannot prove that he has his vision, he can execute his vision. Another way of being able to discern whether or not he is a good man in a sense, or a good man for you, is, does he have a mentor? Is there a positive influence in his life that he can listen to? Because a lot of men are unhinged because they're sovereign. They answer to no one. They don't answer to a God. They don't have a mentor. They haven't had a father. They don't listen to authority. And most of the times they're business owners. And they have a lot of bravado. I'm not saying all business owners are like this. I'm just saying, typically speaking, because he cannot secure employment, because he doesn't want to listen to anybody, he chooses to become an entrepreneur. And that's not a red flag. It's something to pay attention to. So, but can he listen to somebody? Does he have a mentor that they give him a roadmap and he's willing and able and committed to follow that roadmap? If he doesn't, my God, ma'am, he might not listen to you. He may not consider you in his choices and decisions because he is so sovereign. He only answers to his own wilds. So, those are something that I would say in terms of, like, as a woman, how do I give my man grace and trust him if I really haven't seen him map out? Pay attention to his environment and his surroundings and how he respects leadership.
So, folks, I'm going to wrap it up here. If you want more valuable conversation around how men and women can relate in a better way, I want you to go ahead and join us at the Love Wins workshop. It is tomorrow, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Yes. The link is in Ask Miss Cassandra's bio, as well as if you're on my list, I've emailed you and I've texted to you. And we are so lucky that Chris has decided that he is going to be our special guest 24 hours out. But nonetheless, I'll send you the link. You getting it free, child. Everybody else,
right. Right, you get it for free, right?
Join us. I'll make sure I send another message out and post it on my stories. Cassandra posted on hers. And it's really been a pleasure. I thank you so much, Chris, for being so flexible. Cassandra, for being so flexible. This person who's waiting for me on Zoom right now for being so flexible. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, Love Wins workshop.
Yes, Chris.
Appreciate you.
DM me. Please DM me, Chris.
All right, I followed you. I'm about to DM you right now.
All right.
Appreciate you, Alison.
Bye, y'all.